Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang, and welcome back to the Manggcast, straight out of my basement. We are going to be talking about some video games, and then we're going to be talking about some movies. Two things that don't have a lot in common, but we talk about them. I'm going to try to keep this episode somewhat short, partly because there's not a tremendous amount of news, but also because I'm recording this Friday night at about 2 in the morning, because I am busy tomorrow. So, yes. Alright. So, let's start it off with some video game stuff. Dark Souls. I like Dark Souls. A lot of people like Dark Souls. You know who else likes Dark Souls? Twitch apparently likes Dark Souls, and they are having the Twitch community play Dark Souls. Now, this, I think, started last Saturday, I believe. I think I could have talked about it. I could have mentioned it in the last Manggcast, but I was like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna see where it goes. I'm gonna see what happens. See how they do. I think we all knew how they were gonna do. Twitch did beat Pokemon, which was a big deal way back when. I don't know if you watched it. I watched a little bit of it. One of the nights, it was like the most boring night of it too. It was like when they were just stuck in the rocket headquarters or whatever it was. Like everybody was watching that shit. That was huge. I don't know why, it was so popular. And so since then, Twitch has been doing, well, not Twitch. It's not an official thing, but you know, they just call it Twitch Plays blah blah blah. And they've been playing a whole bunch of stuff, and they finally went around to Dark Souls, which is like the most ridiculous thing for them to do. Because it's difficult for people to play normally. So having people just spam commands at the screen with lag and chaos and horribleness, it's never gonna happen. And so throughout the week, basically they just ran into a wall a lot. That was pretty much it. They ran into a wall a whole bunch. They could not get out of the asylum. They could not beat the asylum demon. It was terrible. It was terrible. It was just, I don't know how they stuck with it for so long. They stuck with it for days. And then they switched, I guess, to a voting system instead of just the anarchy that was. So with the voting system, which I think, yeah, because the Pokemon thing eventually did go to that, where they called it democracy, where you got to vote on what happened, and then they would accumulate the votes and then do that. But actually for Pokemon, most people wanted the anarchy, where it was just chaos, and that was what won out most of the time. But for here, it seems democracy won out because it was just impossible to do it otherwise. So they started letting you vote on commands, but it didn't really matter because everything was still so quick and fast-paced that, you know, okay, maybe voting gets you up the ladder, but you're never going to beat the asylum demon no matter what. So what they did recently, this was like Thursday or around Thursday, I guess. They modded the game a little bit. And they changed it so that after each vote, or after each command entry, the command would execute, such as, you know, taking a step forward or two, or swinging your weapon, or using an item, or whatever. And then the game would pause. Everything. It would just, it would freeze frame, for a certain amount of time. And they also put in voting for how long the time went. So it could go anywhere from, like, I don't know what the low end was. The high end was like 50 seconds, which is a long time to like swing your weapon, freeze for 50 seconds, do another action, another 50 seconds. Like, so they ended up beating the asylum demon using that method. They did, which was pretty cool. I mean, that was very exciting. And so now I just checked before I started recording. They're in the Undead Burg, and they're just kind of screwing around. But it just seems so damn tedious. Like, Pokemon was tedious. I mean, I don't know why I watched as long as that. And I didn't even really watch it that long. I watched it a few hours. But they were just, like, in that one room that had all the floor panels that just pushed you around. They were in that for hours. And it was just, like, it was exciting for that little bit because everybody was watching it. This, I don't think they have nearly as many viewers. I didn't look at the viewer count. It can't be that high. And the pausing is just like, if you don't participate in the voting, and I have no interest in it, it's just kind of like, well, okay. And so it seems less, I don't know. I guess the Twitch Plays thing has never really been that exciting to watch to most people. It's just kind of like, look at what we're doing. Look at what we're doing in 2015. It's just something to kind of take a step back, and it's like, Jesus. We're having people from around the world enter commands into a chat in order to control one character in a game to play through it. It's really ridiculous. It absolutely is. So yeah, I mean, I just kind of thought I would bring it to your attention if you hadn't heard about this whole Twitch Plays Dark Souls things. They'll never get back up to the level of the Pokemon thing. That was a big deal for some reason. Like, I'll never forget it. I'll always remember when Twitch played Pokemon, and it's like, yeah, man, and there was like religions forming, and it was insane. But yeah, Twitch Plays Dark Souls. They beat Asylum Demon, so. Alright, so let's talk about Final Fantasy VII. I have two pieces of news. One's news, one's not really news. But anyways, about Final Fantasy VII. First piece is news, and that is that Final Fantasy VII came to iOS this week. iPhone and iPad. And it is a port of the PC version. Comes with touch controls, of course. And an option for turning off random encounters. I guess. I mean, I don't know who this really appeals to. I don't know. I feel like... Actually, that's a good question. Because I feel like, okay, people that are into Final Fantasy VII. Because really, that's the only people that are really getting this. I don't think people that have never played a Final Fantasy, or have never played Final Fantasy VII, pretty much the same thing, they're going to try it for the first time on a tablet. I think that number is very small. So then you have people that like Final Fantasy VII, and they want to play it on the go, for some reason. What are their options, I guess? I mean, you have a laptop, I suppose, but that's old hat. Nobody has that anymore. It's bullshit. I'm really just I'm looking right now, but I would be very shocked if there was no way to play Final Fantasy VII on a PSP or anything like that. The Vita, you can't play it on the Vita? I actually have no idea. Nobody owns a Vita anyway, so that's a moot point. So I guess if you really need to play Final Fantasy VII, you're a big fan of it, and you want to play it on the go, now you can play it on your tablet or your phone, although I don't know why you would do that. I don't know how the touch controls really work. I will never probably know how the touch controls work. But yeah, I guess. This isn't for Android, just iOS, because I don't know why. I have no idea why. And it also comes with, well, not comes with, but launching alongside it, is the Final Fantasy Portal app, which is a hub for all things Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy, I don't know. It's an interesting franchise. It's an interesting series. They're surviving a lot nowadays on the ports and the remakes and things like that. They've got Final Fantasy 14, which I guess is doing all right. They just launched a new expansion, which is doing all right. And then they have Final Fantasy 15 coming out at some point, which, who knows about that? I don't really have a whole lot of interest in it, but some people are interested. But I think most people are interested in just a remake of a game from 1997. And so now, I don't know, like a hub for all things Final Fantasy, that just seems ridiculous. Oh, apparently you can play it on the Vita if you bought the PSN version of Final Fantasy VII. So there you go. But nobody owns a Vita, so that doesn't matter. I don't really know where I'm going with that story. I had 2 Final Fantasy VII stories, so I was like, okay, I'll lump them together. If you really want to play it on the go and you don't have a Vita because you're intelligent, you can buy it on your tablet as long as it's made by Apple. The other Final Fantasy VII thing that I wanted to talk about was there was a poll from, what is this even? This is like some Japanese magazine or something like that. I don't know. They asked 444 of their readers. Actually, I'm pretty sure they asked all their readers, but only 444 responded. They asked them if they had played Final Fantasy VII ever. Of the 444, 89 of them said yes. I don't know what this, like, newspaper or magazine or website, whatever it is. It seems like a surprisingly low number, though. The website is called My Navi. I don't know. I have no idea. It's Japanese, definitely. That seems like just a low number of, like a low percentage of people that have played Final Fantasy VII. Like, of gamer. I have to assume it's a gaming-related thing. So, I guess you can take this whole thing with a huge grain of salt, because that's a very small pool of responses. But that wasn't the point. That wasn't the point of how many people have played Final Fantasy VII. They then asked those people what they want to see the most in the remake of Final Fantasy VII. So I'm going to go from number 5 up to number 1. Number 5, 9% of them said they would like enhancing or improving Yuffie Kisaragi's scenes. If you've never played Final Fantasy VII, well, the number 1 response is probably going to spoil something for you. Too damn bad. You should have played the game by now. But anyways, Yuffie was like a female ninja character. She was optional. Like, you didn't have to get her to beat the game. Like, I barely remember. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy. But, like, you found her in, like, a forest or something like that, and you had to do some shit, and you could recruit her, and she would join your team. But apparently, she's very underrepresented, and people would like to see much more of her in the game. So, there you go. That was the 9% of them would like improving or enhancing her scenes. Number 4, 11.2% said enhancing or improving the game's ending. I'm going to be real honest. I don't think I've ever beaten Final Fantasy VII. I'll have to do that someday, and I'll probably be with the remake. I'll end up beating it. I have no idea how the game ends. I can look it up right now because I don't really care. I think we can all assume how it ends. Like, they save the day. And, most of them survive. Because I saw Advent Children. I saw that shit. Cloud's still alive. I mean, that's a freaking fact. They save the planet, and you know the planet's in danger because it's a Final Fantasy game. So, okay. I don't know what they mean by enhancing it or improving it, but that just seems like, oh, I don't know, a vague answer. Here you go. All right, number 3, 13.5% said full voice acting. This one is actually, that's a pretty good response. Advent Children, which, if you've not seen, is basically, it's not a movie version of Final Fantasy VII. I guess it's like a movie sequel I'm pretty sure it's a sequel. I don't remember a whole lot of it, because I didn't really understand a lot of that movie. But I'm pretty sure it was like a sequel, and it was animated, it was CGI, and it was really intense. It was very Japanese intense action. But it had, of course, you know, voice acting for all the characters. You know, Cloud had a voice actor, Barrett had a voice actor, Sephiroth had a voice actor, and all that. And it was like, whoa, these characters, you know, that you've just played and you've just read their text, and you're like, oh no, they have voices. And I thought they were all right. I don't remember being like upset with the voice acting. So maybe if they just get that crew together for the remake, maybe that could be something. Unless people like hated the voice. I don't know. I'm not really. I don't know. But yeah, I think that would be a pretty good chance. I mean, that full voice acting for a modern RPG is pretty expected. I'd actually be really shocked if they didn't do that. If they're going for like a big HD remake of the game, not including voice acting. If there was a port, okay, I understand. It's a port. But a remake, yeah, I think I would expect that. Number 2, 20.2% of people, of the 89 people, by the way, keep that in mind, said they would like to add more minigames to the Gold Saucer. And this I do remember. The Gold Saucer was basically like a casino / amusement park, whatever, in Final Fantasy VII. And you kind of went there. I think it was part of like a story. Like you had to go there to do some story shit. But the rest of it was all just like mini games. There was just shit to do. You could do like battles, but there was like chocobo races or something like that. I think there was stuff. I remember it being very memorable at the time when I played it as a younger lad. It's like, whoa, look at this! This is crazy. This whole theme park thing, amusement and games, and whoa. Yeah, but they could definitely expand that quite a bit. I wouldn't be shocked if they add some more modern stuff to that. And finally, number 1, the spoiler one, 32.6% said adding an Eris Lives route or storyline. I really don't think this is a spoiler to anybody. If this shocks you, if you don't know about this at this point, I can't help you. I can't help you. But during Final Fantasy VII, there's a character named Eris, or Aerith, I guess, depending on where you played it. I think it's officially Aerith, but it was Eris in the English translation, because I guess Aerith is pronounced like Eris in I don't know. I have no idea. Doesn't matter. You know who I'm talking about. And, yeah, she was character, she wore pink, and, you met her at the start where she sells flowers, which is apparently a metaphor for prostitution. I read that somewhere, like she was actually a prostitute, but they're like, oh no, she sells flowers, when really she sells her own flowers, I guess. But anyways, so she joins up with you for most of the game until towards the end, I guess, she dies being killed by Sephiroth. And it's a very emotional moment. And I don't think I actually got to that point. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I actually got to that point. I knew about it because my brother, it's his favorite Final Fantasy, so he's done all that. But yeah. So that's a really big thing. I mean, it's one of the biggest, like, spoilers, I guess, in video games. It was for a while, I know that. Nowadays, I think everybody knows. So it's like a major part of the whole game. It's one of the most quintessential, iconic parts of Final Fantasy VII. You have Cloud and his big sword. You have Sephiroth, his big sword. And then you have, like, Barrett with his gun arm. And then you have Eris dying. That's what you remember. Adding an alternate route or something where that you could prevent her from dying. I feel like that changes so much of the game. Like, you're appealing to somebody that doesn't really No, I don't think that's a good idea. Again, I never got to that point, but that just doesn't seem right. For as far as a remake, I feel like you're changing a very, very iconic part of the plot, and I don't think that's what a remake should be doing. A remake should be updating it for modern, the gameplay mechanics and things like that, and the design, but the plot should be pretty... It's people like the game because of the plot. Surprisingly, people didn't ask for a way to skip or prevent random encounters. And they didn't ask for the gameplay to change from turn-based active time battle to real-time, because no. Now, the random encounters things actually I'm okay with. But not if it's just, well, I guess I actually am okay with it if it's just turn it off. I think it was I want to say the original Breath of Fire on the Super Nintendo by Capcom. I had an item called, I want to say Smoke. I'm pretty sure it was called Smoke. And if you used it, you didn't get any random encounters until it wore off. You got none. And Breath of Fire 2 had the same item, but it didn't work. It was just like, may prevent random encounters, but it never fucking worked. It was bullshit. I hated it. Final Fantasy VI had the Moogle charm much later in the game, where if you had Moogle in your party and he had it equipped, you didn't get any encounters. And but the best example is from Bravely Default on the 3DS. I don't remember at all how it worked off the top of my head, but it had like a bunch of options where you could set like how often you got random encounters, from like very often to never. And you could set like the difficulty of the random encounters, so you got better rewards, but they were harder, or they were easier, but you got less rewards. And you could customize it all to how you are feeling, or what you need, or whatever like that. And it was really, really well done. It was really cool. Probably the best part of that game. So something like that. Like, that's how modern RPG should be done. I doubt they'll go that route at all, but they apparently are okay with just turning off random encounters, because that's what they did for the iOS port. Alright, enough about Final Fantasy. Ubisoft has announced that they are delaying Rainbow Six Siege from October 13th to December 1st, citing player feedback as the biggest reason that the team needs a few more weeks to polish the game up. However, they are still going for the closed beta on September 24th, and apparently they're going to use that feedback to help finish the game. So this is a game that was going to be released, to be in your hands or on your system, whatever, in what? Let me check. Less than 2 months, like 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Gonna be playable. No takebacks. 7 weeks is not a lot of time. Because, I mean, they got to go gold, they got to wrap it all up, they got to print all the discs, although that's less of an issue nowadays. They, of course, usually have day one patches, but you get the idea. It's got to be pretty close to finish. And they suddenly decide, oh, wait, shit. We weren't done with that yet. Let's delay it by, I don't know, a month and a half. We'll just see what people say. Now, yeah, you may be thinking then, the original plan was to have a beta start on September 24th and have the game come out 3 weeks later. What the hell is the point of the beta then, other than just, I don't know, hey, get excited about this game, like, you know, every other beta that comes out. So now they're saying, oh, we're going to actually have the beta give us feedback that we get to actually work into the game before release, which is how it should be. I still don't think it's a great amount of time, but okay, it's a little bit better. I mean, this is not a shock to anybody, because I don't think any Ubisoft game in the last 5 years has ever come out when they said it would. But it's not a huge delay. If they had delayed it into 2016, that would be, oh man. Well, I guess they wouldn't have had the beta at all then. I think that would have just been, they would have been in too rough of shape maybe. So, okay, it's probably pretty good, but they want to just make it just right. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's probably just a lot of, like, the little things, like the making sure balance is right, and intuitive design and UI and stuff like that. I understand. It's not a big deal. I'm not really ragging. But it's always a question of, you know, you never get to know, like, how much really changed here. Like, we're not allowed to check out an alternate universe where the game came out when it was supposed to, and the game came out, you know, when they delayed it to really see what's different. I mean, it'd be interesting. Like, you know, they could delay it for all sorts of reasons, and they could just say that they want more feedback. We'll never get to know, because we just have to assume, well, they fixed it, they made it good. Now, if a game comes out and it's shit, then we're like, oh, we needed more feedback. We'll get some patches out, don't worry. Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft, I used to have a lot of faith in them. There was a time, that was like an E3 not that long ago, where I remember saying that I have faith that they put out polished projects. Nowadays, I'm not so sure. The faith is slipping from Ubisoft, and I'm hoping that they can fix it, that they can reclaim it, they can put out high-quality stuff that they used to. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if that'll be a Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, I am really interested in it. I am in the beta. I will be playing it. I'll be showing it off. But like last time I mentioned that, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be playing with some competent people, but then that one kid that just fucks everything up. And I think that's how that game's going to go. Unless you have a full group, it's not going to be great. Alright. Here's the interesting story for the day. Bethesda, or somebody involved with Bethesda in an official marketing capacity, has decided that they are going to market Fallout Shelter, which is their mobile tablet whatever game based around Fallout and running a Fallout Shelter. They're going to market it through Tinder. Alright, so if you don't know what Tinder is, I'm well familiar with it, so I can tell you. Tinder is a mobile app used by many people, and it was originally designed more or less for hookups, for one-night stands, things like that. Basically how it works is you make your profile. It's pretty quick, pretty easy. It takes your pictures from Facebook, blah, blah, blah. And then you go through and you get to look at people that you might be interested in. So this could be the opposite gender, the same gender, whatever you want to set. You get to set the age range, how far away from you, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to look at some of their pictures. Maybe if they wrote a profile, you can read that, just a little blurb about them. But usually you don't even go into that. You just look at one picture. And then you either swipe left if you're not interested, and you swipe right if you are interested. And on their end, they go through the same just pool of candidates. And if they swipe right on you and you both swiped right on each other, you have a match. And then you're allowed to talk to each other. And you set up the dirty deeds, and you do them cheap, and blah, blah, blah. It's turned in up to a bit more of a dating app. I guess there are still a lot of people out looking for hookups, blah, blah, blah. But that's Tinder, okay? It's fairly popular. People know about it. So what does this have to do with Fallout, or Fallout Shelter? Well, apparently now, some people are seeing that when they're swiping through on Tinder, they see a profile for Vault Boy. Vault Boy is who I use for all of my iconography. He is the usually smiling, sadistic little piece of shit in a blue suit. He's the image that is on this video right now. That's Vault Boy. I'm a big fan. So he apparently has his own Tinder profile. He's age 25. And his profile says, or at least this sample profile that I'm looking at, it might be the same everywhere, but it says, build a brighter future together, underground. Swipe right to be selected as a Vault Tech Overseer and create the perfect underground community. Start building today. Vault Boy likes Nuka-Cola, putting out fires, taking coffee breaks, and exploring the blasted wasteland. Collect bottle caps, lunchboxes, and outfits. If love was radiation, I'd need a box of Rataways. Vault Boy. And his profile image also includes the name Fallout Shelter, as well as the hashtag DateADweller. So here's the thing. I'm not upset about this. Like I'm not gonna like rant like, oh, this is bullshit, blah blah blah. There's low class marketing bullshit. I mean, it's kind of funny and it's kind of ridiculous. But I just want you to think about this. Just think about the age that we're living in. Again, I just have to point to this. 2015. Not even the fact that we have mobile dating apps, because whatever. I mean, that's not the point. The point is about the presence that video games are becoming, where it's not frowned upon, I guess. I was going to say kosher, but I don't know if it's... I'm not going to go that far. I mean, it's not frowned upon to advertise a video game in a dating app. And, I mean, just that just... Like, the hobby is just growing at this rate that is just... It's very interesting. It's very surprising. I don't know how great of marketing is. I am talking about it, and video game news sites are talking about it. So that's one thing. I don't know how many people are actually discovering the game through Tinder. Because I feel like if you're interested in this kind of thing, you probably have already heard about it. If you're not interested in it, you're probably kind of pissed off that this fills up your Tinder. Because people I know usually Tinder when they're drunk. So, it's not really like, what is this animated bullshit on my Tinder? Get out of here. I don't know. I don't know how effective it is. I'm curious. I'd be very curious to know how effective it is. But it's so interesting to me to just take a step back and think about this. Where we're at now with our hobby. I mean, yeah, marketing and advertising is always kind of a shameful thing in general, so I'm not going to overpraise it in any capacity. It's just an interesting thing to think about, so I felt I needed to mention it. All right, that's about half the podcast, so let's move on to movies. Not a whole lot to talk about, don't worry. First thing, I don't often talk about trailers, because I have mixed opinions about trailers. For one, I kind of really appreciate the art of making a trailer. For those of you who follow the channel for a while and watch what I do, you'll probably know that I do enjoy making trailers for video games. I enjoy making my own trailers with my own music, and I just enjoy kind of the art of it. Like, that would be my preferred art, is trailers. So what I'm probably going to say afterwards is a bit hypocritical. And I actually, if I can side mention the trailer that they put out for the new Gears of War remake or whatever they did, where they redid the trailer from way back from the original Gears of War using the Mad World cover. That is a great trailer. Both the original one and the remake this is the exact style that I copy. So I love that. I watched that a couple times. I don't often rewatch trailers. Great stuff. So yeah, I really appreciate the art of putting together a good trailer. I'm always on the lookout for an intriguing, entertaining, original trailer. What they do with it. I think if I actually went into like a proper field, like I got a proper job and I had like an education and things like that, I would be very much okay with being like a trailer guy, like the guy that puts that together, or part of a team or whatever I don't even know how they do it, but that would be a cool job for me to have. So I really appreciate it. On the other hand, I feel like trailers cater to... I don't want to insult anybody with this, because I feel like I just said, I appreciate trailers. And they have their place. But I feel like they appeal and are meant for a certain group of movie-going populace. Because what trailers are meant to do is, A, they're meant to inform you of a film that you may not have known about. I mean, that's probably their primary objective. Is, oh, I didn't know this was coming out. There it is. And then their secondary, while they're informing you that this exists, it's also to promote the idea of you going to see it when it comes out. They do this by putting out a good trailer. So, oh man, that movie looks really good. I want to see it. And so a trailer is very, I guess, important to a person that is swayed by a trailer. I'm one of those people that I could never see a single trailer for any movie, and I don't think my movie-going habits would change all that much at all. I know if I want to see a movie pretty much based on the name, like the one-line summary of it, and who's in it. That's pretty much all I need to know. But some people, like on the extreme end of the case, they could be excited about a movie, see the trailer, and then decide never to go see it. Or they could decide, oh, I have no interest in that movie. And then they see the trailer and like, oh man, I gotta see that. And so for them, the importance of a trailer cannot be understated. Now, I guess that's not, it's not like my way is right and their way is wrong or anything like that. It's just different strokes. Some people are just influenced by trailers more than others. I mean, that doesn't have a whole lot to do with what I'm going to talk about, I guess. But I felt like I wanted to put my opinion of trailers out there. I respect the art of them a whole hell of a lot, because I think it's just, like, they have to sell a movie in a minute or so to these people. To me, like, it doesn't matter. I know what a good trailer is like, and I know what a bad trailer is like. I can recognize it, but it doesn't really matter to me either way. But to certain people, like, it's the biggest marketing ever. You know, it's huge. So the trailer that I'm going to mention to you is what I think is a really good one. Because, well, actually, I'll mention a really bad one, and I'll mention a really good one. I was only going to talk about the good one, but now I have to mention a bad one. The really bad one I saw when I went to see The Gift this week, and I'll talk about that at the end. But the really bad one was actually the first one that we saw. And I'm trying to find out the name of the movie. Like, that's a first really bad sign. Is after, like, a few days go by, and you don't even remember the name of the movie. I think I know the general gist, so I'm trying to find it out. But honestly, I can't. Oh, okay, I did find it. The movie is titled Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. And I'll just describe the trailer that I saw. The trailer that I saw... Oh, man, I barely remember it. Basically, it was almost like thrown in media res, really. Like, it just kind of... It was real quick. It was not 30 seconds. It was like 15 seconds. And it basically involved, like, a Boy Scout, I guess, being attacked by a zombie cat. And him, like, wrestling with it. And I don't know if they killed it. I don't even remember. I might have blocked that out. And then they, like, cut to, like, a door being slammed shut, and then, like, all these zombie cats trying to, like, scratch underneath the door. And then it just cut to the title of Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. In theaters this October. Like, that was the whole thing. And I'm probably not really describing it really well, but that was pretty much what it was. And it was just like, my God, that was awful. But you see, that wasn't it. That was not really the whole trailer. Because immediately after that, they did the same thing. They had the green screen that you get to see, and it's like, oh, this trailer's not rated, or blah, blah, blah. And then they went into another trailer, another like 15-second trailer for Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. This one was like, right after the first one ended, I was like, that is the worst trailer I've ever seen. After the second one, I was like, that is the second worst trailer I've ever seen. Like, it was just, both of them were awful. And it wasn't like I was going in with like these preconceived notions. Like, I had never heard of this movie before. Like, I had no reason to just hate on it, except for the fact that the trailers were absolute shit. Like, I could just recognize immediately, this is terrible. I don't even remember what the second one was about. Like, I was just reeling from the first one still. But, so they did like a first one, like a full, not a full one, but it was like a start to end trailer. Started with, you know, this trailer's not rated, ended with the name of the movie coming this October. And then they did another one, this trailer's not rated, and then went to, you know, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse in theaters this October. And it was just like, why? Like, there's a reason that's never done, because it's terrible. And I was like dreading the thought that they were going to go to a third mini trailer, and it was just like, oh my God, so bad. And so I guess almost, I think when it's that bad, I might actually be swayed to not want to see it. Like, I think I may have just disproved what I told you, like 2 minutes ago, where I'm not swayed by trailers. I may have not had any interest in it at all anyways, because there's nobody I really know in it. I don't really care for zombies that much. And I think the title's a little lame. So I probably wouldn't have had that much interest in it, but I think it did sway me negatively. That it was that powerful. So on the other end, then, the good trailer that I would like to talk about is for a... It's not indie. I don't want to say indie. But it's not a big budget one. It's for a horror movie called The Witch. Some of you may have already heard about this. It won some awards recently at Sundance, and it had critical acclaim, which is not common for a horror movie. And this is definitely straight up horror film. The director, Robert Eggers, won the Sundance Award for directing of a dramatic film, which I guess they lump horror in there because it's dramatic. I don't know. It may have also won some other things at Sundance. I don't recall. But it definitely received a lot of acclaim. And so I recommend, well, if you have any interest in horror, I recommend you watching the trailer. Because horror movies are one of the toughest to actually pull off a good trailer. Because so many horror movies follow a very similar structure for their trailers. They use a lot of cliches in both like audio and text on the screen. They'll often do that. They'll throw all their jump scares into the trailer pretty much. Like they won't act, you can't really, they may be able to pull off one like proper jump scare in the trailer to be like, whoa, but usually it doesn't work in a trailer format. So they'll just kind of throw all the intense moments, which generally in a horror movie, modern American horror movie, are the jump scares. So they'll throw all that in there, they'll maybe throw in a very, like a slow build-up for about 8 or 10 seconds. Usually accompanied by like a creaking door sound or something like that. Yeah, most horror trailers not that good, and I can definitely see people not being scared but rather laughing at horror trailers, just because it just doesn't really fit as well into a trailer as, say, many modern action movies or dramatic movies, or things like that. It just doesn't fit as well, because a lot of horror is about the kind of build up, the slow build up, and the tension and things like that, which you just don't get in a minute long or 30-second trailer. It just doesn't work. But the Witch trailer was really well done. Now this trailer is about 2.5 minutes long, so they have more time to work with. But they kind of like set up the whole plot, and so you get pretty much exactly what the movie is going to be about. You know what's going to be happening, and you get your kind of basic. They still have to throw in all like the text reviews and things like that, like, oh, this is the scariest movie in recent years. I've never been so frightened. You get all that kind of stuff just because they have to throw their acclaims out there. It's just how it is. Oh, look, we won an award at Sundance. You see that? Look at that. See it? Good. But the rest of the trailer, really well done. Really creepy. And, yeah, I'm very interested in seeing this movie. It's kind of a period piece, 1600s. And we really don't have that many great movies about witches. I mean, there's the Blair Witch Project, of course. But a lot of stuff is just kind of about possessions. Witches don't get a whole lot of love. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. I kind of wanted to just talk about trailers in general there. But yeah, The Witch was a really good trailer. I thought about, like, I have of course the Patreon is still going on for the indefinite future. So if you feel like donating, Patreon's there. I bring it up because the next tier, the next goal for the Patreon at $45 is that I do top 10 lists. I start doing top 10 lists. And so one of the ideas that I thought about for a top 10 list would be my top 10 trailers of all time. I don't really want to go into that right now because I don't want to just tell you the list. But I can definitely tell you my number one, no question about it, is Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. And that's just one of those that's just like I'll never forget it, really. Like, for some reason, it's just so ingrained in my head. That trailer is so damn good. And I think a lot of it has to do with the music. Like, I identify music in a trailer more than almost anything else. That's what makes some trailers so memorable, which is why I put songs in all my trailers. But yeah, the Edge of Tomorrow one, the one with the This Is Not the End by Fieldwork, incredible trailer. All right, so enough about trailers. Let's move on because we're running long. Like I said, it's getting late. Scooby-Doo is apparently going to actually come to theaters again. Last time it was in theaters was in 2004, which was a live-action sequel to the 2002 movie Scooby-Doo. But they apparently now want to bring it back to theaters, but in animated form, not in live-action form. So Scooby-Doo, I'm a fan. I'm not a huge fan, but it was definitely a big part of my childhood. I, of course, watched a whole bunch of the original Scooby-Doo series, because they replayed it non-stop all the time on television. So I'm well acquainted with Scooby-Doo, the original series. It was pretty, you could tell it was kind of old school. It was a little cheesy and corny even for the time. But I became well acquainted with all the characters, and it was entertaining. And they did a lot of offshoots of Scooby-Doo. the best one, not objectively, this is subjectively, the best one, in my opinion, as a kid, the best one was a pup named Scooby-Doo. I can't really, like, recommend that you go check this out, because if you watch it now, it's bullshit. It's not bullshit. Like, I don't know, I can't describe it objectively, because it just has so much nostalgic value to me. But man, when I was a kid, pup named Scooby-Doo, that topped everything. I could watch all that now, just like, pup named Scooby-Doo was so good. And it was basically, it was them all as, like, kids. Like, they were all, like, 10 or some shit. They were just in grade school, and they did, of course, mysteries. And, it was animated in a much more modern style. It was much more just kind of cartoonish. And, Scooby was a pup, obviously. And they had, like, a lot of musical interludes and things like that, and they would occasionally just, like, dance while they're being chased by the monster or whatever, you know, the guy or whatever. And, yeah, it was ridiculous, but it was fantastic. My favorite version of Scooby-Doo. They also had a version with, like, Vincent Price, which, I don't know, was kind of weird. And then they did a whole bunch of movies. They did a whole bunch of, like, animated movies that just went straight to DVD, or they showed it on television and stuff like that. And the most memorable one, and I think actually, like, the biggest one, I have to look it up. I have to look it up to get the exact name. But it aired exclusively on... Oh, man. I don't remember where... I want to say Cartoon Network, but that can't be right at all. Let me find out, because it's not important at all, but I need to know. Because it was like a big moment for my childhood when this came out. I'm gonna find it. Damn it, where is it? Oh, there it is. It was called Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. And, what did this air on? It was direct-to-video, but they aired it on TV. It was probably already out on DVD for quite a while before they aired it on television. But this was in 1998. Alright, like, it just, sometimes you just didn't know about this stuff. But it did premiere on Cartoon Network, about a month or so after it came out on video. So, not a big, like, back then, you just would not know. I thought it just aired on Cartoon. That was the premiere of it, you know. That's what I thought. And so this was really memorable. I was 8 years old. I was 8 years old when this came out. I remember I was all hopped up on, like, Pup Named Scooby-Doo and shit. But I still also watched the old school series. So this was relevant to me. And they advertised this constantly on Cartoon Network. It was like a big deal for them. And they advertised every time by saying, "This time the monsters are real." And I was like, holy shit. Like, I was 8 years old, man. That just blew my, like, real monsters? Oh my god! It was so crazy. And so, yeah, I remember finally watching it. And, like, the whole thing was just really memorable to me. Like, if I watched it now, it'd probably blow my mind. It was pretty crazy at the time for an 8-year-old kid, because it involved, like, zombie pirates, like, trying to butcher them and shit. It was crazy. And then, like, so, I don't know, this is so off topic, it's so ridiculous. That's actually not that off topic, but anyways, they go to this island to check out this story about, like, where apparently there are real ghosts and stuff. So they go to this, like, Creole island or something like that in Louisiana or something like that. And they stay with this like wealthy family who owned slaves back in the day. No doubt about it. They stay with this wealthy family, and they start looking into this whole ghost situation, which they find out was about, like, these zombie pirates. And so they get involved. They unfortunately, for some reason, like, the zombie pirates awaken and they start causing havoc. And then they find out that the family that they had been staying in are apparently, like, werewolves or some shit. And so it's, like, all sorts of stuff going down. It gets real, man. It gets real. So that was, like, the most memorable thing as far as Scooby-Doo. But then, okay, moving on. 2002, the live action movie came out. So I was about 12 when the movie came out. And I can just imagine like what my like a Manggcast back then, like if I was the proper age, like if I was my age nowadays when that came out, what I would have said about it. I mean I was 12, so obviously I loved it. Like I could watch it now and still really love it, but that's again nostalgia talking. It's weird. Because again, they go for kind of the real monsters, and there's like demons, and there's like protoplasmic souls and shit like that. Like it's really a strange plot. And then it involves Scrappy-Doo for some reason as like the leader of all these demons and some shit. Like it's just the plot is ridiculous, and I think they way overstep their bounds on that. But I mean, I was 12 years old. It was like, wow, you know, there's Freddy and Velma, and oh man, there's Scooby-Doo, and it's all live. It's crazy. Like it was just, yeah, like that's how it is as a kid. Like things just amaze you. And I thought everybody just fit their roles so perfectly, and it was funny. And Sugar Ray was in it. I'm not even sure if I really knew who Sugar Ray was, but I was like, man, that guy, he's so cool with his blonde, spiky hair, and he can sing, and he's cool. I want to be like him. And then it also had Isla Fisher in the movie. If you don't know that, yeah, Isla Fisher was in the movie. She just played like a girl who for some reason was really interested in Shaggy. And then she became like possessed. And she was real fine. Like as a 12-year-old, I was like, wow, what's going on? Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. I could watch that anytime. Great movie. Great movie. But then the sequel came out a couple years later. Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. And that was a big pile of shit. Now, granted, I was 14 at the time, so I was kind of moving on from Scooby-Doo, but whoever talks about Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, that's like Garfield to A Tale of Two Kitties. Like, it's just like, no, you're done. Stop it. And so then, I mean, at least for me personally, Scooby-Doo just kind of ended. Like, it was just kind of done. It was like, okay. Occasionally, I could watch, you know, a pup named Scooby-Doo or something like that, but all right, we're pretty much done. And so now, then, they want to bring it back to theaters. They want to make a big comeback. Scooby-Doo, bring it back. And so who are you appealing to here? Well, like most nostalgic thing, you're appealing to people that love Scooby-Doo from back in the day. Now, this could go back, I mean, that goes nostalgia back for a while. Scooby-Doo originally came out in like 1969. Like it's old. And so you have from 1969 to like, we'll say 2002, 2003. And that's about its relevance. So you have a big span. But what you don't have is young kids. Young kids now don't really know who Scooby-Doo is. Yes, they still make like straight to DVD animated movies, stuff like that. Or TV movies, but no. Young kids don't care about Scooby-Doo. They moved on. So you're appealing to people like my age and older, somewhat a little older. So the question is, what do you do with this movie? How do you get people into the theater for a new animated Scooby-Doo movie? It's tricky. If you make it in kind of the old style, or the style that they kind of have been doing, it doesn't carry any more relevance than the straight-to-DVD movies. Just because it's in theaters does not make me want to go see it. If I wanted Scooby-Doo, I could find Scooby-Doo. I could find modern whatever. Okay, boom, it's there. But if you make it CGI, if you really make it modern and, you know, fresh, you lose a lot of that nostalgic appeal. Like, that's just kind of almost a new thing to us. The live-action movie was new, and I don't really know how well it did amongst older fans at the time. I just know I was 12 and I loved it because it had Isla Fisher in it. But anyways, I don't know. Apparently they don't want to go back to live-action, which I guess is understandable. They don't want to give up on it because it's Scooby-Doo. It's like, you know, it's a household name. Everybody knows Scooby-Doo. But yeah, it's tricky. I don't really have any advice for what to do. It's been around a long time. I'm amazed they can even come up with a fresh plot at this point. But yeah, I mean, I guess if they come out with something great that can still be relevant, yeah, I'll go see it. I like Scooby-Doo. I like the whole thing. I like the gang. This episode's gone on longer than I wanted. God damn it, I talk too much. Alright, final thing before I mention the gift is Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey apparently wants to play a character known as Captain Marvel. And I'm gonna speed through this real quick, because some of you probably don't know who Captain Marvel is. First of all, there's a DC Comics character named Captain Marvel. He's been around for a long time, since the 40s. In fact, during the 40s, his comics even outsold Superman. Think about that. So Captain Marvel was a big deal. And I won't really sum up his character, but I mean, he's like, it's a boy named Billy Batson, and he says the word Shazam, and he turns into Captain Marvel, he's like God. He's basically God. He's basically Superman, except he's got a worse name. Well, that's debatable. So he was Captain Marvel. But there's a Marvel comic character named Captain Marvel. Actually, there's like 12 of them. But I digress. There's Marvel comic characters named Captain Marvel. And so, it does not shock you then to find out that Captain Marvel from DC Comics is no longer called Captain Marvel. He's actually called Shazam now, after the word that turns him into Shazam. What may surprise you, and surprised me, was that this change from Captain Marvel to Shazam happened in 2011. Yeah, that recently. They were allowed to have... DC Comics had a character named Captain Marvel for that long, before Marvel was like, whoa, this is bullshit. So we're not talking about the DC Comics version. That's also a Captain Marvel you may have heard of. The Marvel Comics version has been through a number of different characters. Starting in the 60s, you had Captain Marvel, who was an alien known as Mar-Vell. Then you had the second Captain Marvel, who's known as Monica Rambeau, who is a police lieutenant from New Orleans. Then you had the third one, who was, I guess, the son of Mar-Vell, who was known as Genus Vell. Then the fourth one was Genus Vell's younger sister, who is named Phyla Vell. Then the fifth one was apparently a Skrull sleeper agent who is bound with Mar-Vell's DNA, and his name was Kerner. Then the sixth one was like somebody named Novar. I'm not making this up. I'm reading this off the wiki. But then finally, the most recent one, and I guess the one that Ronda Rousey wants to play, is Carol Danvers, who used to be known as Miss Marvel, but now goes by Captain Marvels. And yes, this is how comics work. So anyways, yeah, Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey wants to play Carol Danvers in the alleged planned Captain Marvel movie. And so she's been posting fan pictures of her in the Captain Marvel uniform and costume and things like that, and she really wants to do this. And now apparently Kevin Smith was asked about it because he knows comic books, and so for some reason his opinion has some sort of importance, and he was like, I would love to see it happen. This is so... Have you seen the pictures? It would look so good. This is perfect. And here's the problem. Ronda Rousey can't really act. And I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at pictures of Captain Marvel, and I know these are kind of sexified, I guess. It's meant to be just kind of almost like a pinup, because that's how females are in the comic book world. But Ronda Rousey always just seems kind of angry. She's she could kick my ass. Captain Marvel doesn't look like she could. I mean, I kind of But Captain Marvel looks like I want her to kick my ass. Ronda Rousey's like, no, that would just hurt a lot. So I don't know. I'm not dissing Ronda Rousey. I mean, obviously she's a pretty freaking incredible athlete, but she's not an incredible actress. Now, that's not to say maybe that's what they want for Captain Marvel. But I don't see, like, just because you might look good in the outfit and you want to be in the part does not mean in any way that you should get the part. There are some people that, like, it just fits. Like, it just works. Like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. just is Tony Stark. Ryan Reynolds just is Deadpool. Like, it's just kind of how it is. I don't know if I really see Ronda Rousey in this part. Now, granted, I don't know anything about Carol Danvers or Captain Marvel. I'm just going off what I know about Ronda Rousey and what I'm seeing with Captain Marvel. I don't know. Everybody wants to be like The Rock. That's really what it comes down to. Everybody wants to be The Rock. Every single person that is in any form of athletics or at all is like, hey, The Rock did it. Now, Ronda Rousey's been in a few movies recently. She's been doing things. She wants to get into this world. You're not The Rock. Very, very few people are at that level. And Ronda Rousey, as much as she could kick my ass, is not on The Rock's level. But I digress. So finally, I want to talk about The Gift. In the little time that I have. Okay, so yeah, I went to see this movie on Tuesday, and I saw some shitty trailers beforehand, and then we saw this movie. I'm not gonna spoil it for you because it just recently came out, and it's not a bad movie, and you might go see it, so I'm not gonna spoil it. Here's what I have to say about this movie. It didn't blow me away. I wasn't amazed by the film. But I don't think that's bad. Like, I don't think I really had any expectations when I went in to see it. Like, I had known it had gotten high reviews. People were kind of like, oh, it's really good. And I hear that. I take that into account, but I don't think that ever really affects... Not on a conscious level, perhaps. The basic plot is that you have this married couple, Jason Bateman, Rebecca Hall, and they move into a new home in kind of suburb Los Angeles area, and they run into a guy who goes by Gordo, who's played by Joel Edgerton, who also wrote, produced, and directed the film, interestingly enough. So I guess he's doing well for himself. And so they bump into him. They don't recognize him at first, but Jason Bateman's like, oh, yeah, Gordo, sure. And as time goes on, Gordo starts kind of leaving them little gifts. Like a bottle of wine or, fish for their fish pond and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of escalates from there. It is not a home invasion movie, which I think is what some people thought it was. It's not a home invasion movie. It's a bit more psychological than that. Home invasions tend to be very blunt. Like, they're very, like, direct with, like, your home is being invaded. Oh, shit. This is a bit more psychological than that. And I think it is well written. I think it is a well-written movie. It is definitely a slow burner, I would say. This is not a horror movie. It is not billed as a horror movie. I do not consider it a horror movie. I don't think anybody considers it a horror movie. It does have a few jump scares. In fact, I think one of the jump scares in this movie got, like, it had to be, like, the biggest impact of any jump scare I've seen in a theater. Like, I saw people, like, 3 feet out of their seat. It was crazy. And I was like, how did you not see this coming? At this point in my life, if I don't see a jump scare coming, like, 15 seconds in advance, I'm shocked. Like, that shocks me. if I don't see it coming, like, that far in advance. Like, if you see enough horror movies or horror-like movies, very, like, you just, cinematography, like, you just know immediately, like, what's gonna happen. But I guess if you see them sparingly enough, and especially since this isn't really billed as a horror movie, yeah, I guess it could shock the shit out of you. So it does have a few jump scares, which actually, I guess, is the way to do it. I've mentioned this before, where what you should do is just have a, like, really 1 or 2 jump scares in your film, and just kind of have the rest think that there's going to be a jump scare. It doesn't really do it great here, because it doesn't spread it out enough. Like, basically, like, 2 jump scares happen within, I want to say, a minute of each other. And then the other one is, like, I don't know, 15 minutes apart, something like that. So they're not really spread out, they're just kind of all thrown together during the middle of the film. So it's a psychological movie. And it kind of, how it kind of works. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but basically it's like, you're meant to believe that Gordo, played by Joel Edgerton, you're meant to believe that he's like a stalker, like he's the bad guy. And then the film's like, wait a minute, what if, you know, maybe he's not really the bad, like maybe he is the bad guy. But then it's like, oh, maybe he's not, well, maybe they're both bad guys. It's kind of like that, you know, it's kind of a bit back and forth, it's testing your mind, kind of. It's one of those kinds of movies. So I guess if you go see it, do not expect a horror film. Do not expect to just have nightmares and things like that. Just kind of have like, oh, like that's kind of effed up a little bit. All right. It was well written. It was well directed. I mean, Joel Edgerton definitely he did good work here. I can't complain about any of that. Jason Bateman was an interesting choice for a lead, I thought. He was not really funny in the movie. There's one part where he is very funny. Like, the whole theater was just busting up, it was very strange. Like, in the middle of this psychological thriller film, the theater was just busting up, because it was very funny. But the rest of it, no, he's not very humorous. But I thought he did a pretty good job. Yeah, there's emotions at work. Tension, I guess. There's anger. But again, I wasn't blown away, and I don't really know why. Because I don't know what I was really, I had no idea what I was expecting. I don't think I ever saw a trailer for the movie. So I had no idea what to expect. I was going in completely fresh. I guess I thought it was going to be more horror than it was. All I really had to go on was the name and the image of Joel Edgerton holding like a box. Like the cover of it, like the film poster. That's what I had to go on. And it was like, oh man, what's in the box? Yo, what's in the box? I mean, you get to find out what's in the boxes, but it's not really scary. Like, there's never like a human head in the boxes. I can spoil that for you right now. Don't expect that. So yeah, it wasn't amazing. I don't think it deserves like a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it's getting. But maybe it does from an objective standpoint. I just, like, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. Yeah, I guess that sums it up. I don't think I'll ever watch it again, but I don't regret seeing it. It was alright. It was alright. I guess I'm just, like, if I'm gonna watch a psychological thriller, I prefer to have more happen. I just prefer more stuff to be going on. And I don't know if the GIF, nothing really ever happens. Ish. Like, if you look at, like, Silence of the Lambs, you know, like, things go on, and it's, I mean, that's probably, like, the best example ever, so I guess it's not really fair, but it's alright. Go check it out if you're interested, but don't expect a horror movie, and don't expect a whole lot to happen. But, well put together. Alright, we have talked for long enough, especially since this was supposed to be a short episode, ended up being the longest episode, but damn my mouth. It is now 3:19 a.m. if you're curious. And I'm a little tired, so I think I might go to bed. All right, so my name is Mang. This has been the Manggcast for August 22nd, 2015. And I'll see you fine folks next week.